Howdy YouTube, how we all doing? Um, just going to do a quick little run through of my bike and just talk about things that I'm not quite so happy about. And this is just for anybody that's thinking about buying an older Triumph Bonneville. Generally, I love the bike, but with any bike, when you've lived with it for a while, there are things after a while that sort of niggle you, and these are just niggles really, because generally I'm very pleased with the bike. So looking at the bike, you can see the side stand there. Again, a bit of a double-edged sword. I like the side stand, I like the way it looks. On this particular bike, the bike leans over quite a fair way. So if I just look at it from the front, as you can see, it leans over quite a lot more than sort of other bikes. It's got a short stubby side stand that sort of juts out at quite an acute angle. I love the way when it's parked up it leans over. It's got that real old school feeling. It's really good. However, this is a heavy bike. As I've mentioned before, so when you swing a leg over it, you've got to use quite a bit of force to bring the bike upright. And once the bike is upright, it's fine, but it can be a bit cumbersome. It can be a bit of a pain. So I like the way it looks, but functionally, because of that weight, it can be a little bit cumbersome to keep hauling it up. But I've got a bit of a technique now that when I throw the leg over the bike, I kind of throw my weight over to the other side and do it in one fluid dynamic motion, so that kind of combats that. So it's not too bad. I can live with it, but love the look of it, but sometimes I just wish it had a bit of a taller side stand. When you're parking anywhere where you're on a bit of an angle, it's not too much of a problem because all the weight is leaned to one side. I've never had any issues or feeling that the bike's going to fall. It just doesn't, so that's quite good. The only other thing with the side stand is the design of it. It can be quite fiddly to when you pull up and stop to get your heel sort of underneath that loop. It would be better if it had a little arm or something that you could just sort of grab it with your heel. So when you stop, sometimes I'm sort of fiddling about with my heel of my boot trying to get it down, but generally it's okay. So yeah, the side stand, I kind of like it but kind of don't. The other thing is this headlight. I absolutely love the way it looks. It's really old school, really retro. It's got the yellow film. When I bought this bike, it just had a halogen bulb, and honestly, you might as well just have a candle in the front of your bike. Yeah, the lighting isn't great at night, but this has been the whole bane of my bike. So I initially switched the headlight bulb for an LED one, which it's got at the moment, and it is a bit better, but it's not great. So then I thought about putting one of those LED daymaker lights in, and this is the main thing that I'm unhappy about with the bike. Excuse me, with the bike. This particular bike, it's got a 5 3/4 inch headlight, and it's deceptive because the actual bezel here, that's a 7-inch. So without thinking, and it's my issue, I went and bought a 7-inch headlight, and obviously it didn't fit because the headlight assembly on this bike, and it's just for this particular bike, the other older Bonnevilles have a 7-inch headlight, but this particular bike's got a 5 3/4 inch headlight, and the whole headlight assembly is really complicated. It's it's in three parts. So you've got the bezel, which is this bit here, and then you've got this inner retaining ring, and then inside there you've got this kind of metal bowl that clamps the headlight in place, and it's held together with some bolts on the inside. So I went and bought a 5 3/4 inch Daymaker headlight for it, and I bought one and it didn't fit this retaining ring. It was too big. So then I started doing lots of research on the sizes of these 5 3/4 inch headlights, and I discovered that they're all different sizes. Although generally it's a 5 3/4 inch headlight, some of them are slightly less mil than others. So I ended up buying about 3 or 4 of these headlights, and eventually I did get one that could fit the retaining ring through trial and error. However, these 5 3/4 inch headlights, they're quite deep, as in they've got a big back to them, and this headlight bucket is quite small, as you can see, and the wiring that goes into the headlight bucket, it's quite thick and rigid, so there's not really a lot of play in the headlight to be able to fit. So when I put and I did change it, I did put the 5 3/4 inch LED headlight in, and to be honest, I wasn't sort of sold on the looks, because I didn't really think it suited the bike, because it was too kind of modern. So that was that, but I wanted the visibility, so I thought, okay, I'll just go with it. But then this metal bowl that goes on the back wouldn't fit, because the headlight was too deep. So I ended up managing to get it on, but just using zip ties. But because it wasn't like a good kind of factory fit, this retaining ring ended up sticking out a lot further out. And I got it in there, and it was quite solid, and it wasn't going anywhere, and the illumination was brilliant. It was night and day, you know, with the light. It was, and it didn't look too bad. But because this retaining ring stuck out further to about here, I noticed that there was a big gap here. So I ran with it, but unfortunately there was one day I got caught in some heavy rain, and unfortunately water from the road and the rain got inside the headlight bucket, and then I started having some starting issues with the bike. So I disassembled it, took it all apart, and there was water inside. So I cleaned it all out. I taped up anything that was exposed with electrical tape, dried it out with a hairdryer, and put the original headlight back in, and it's been fine ever since. So anybody that's looking to buy this particular Bonneville model, which is a Triumph Scrambler 900, just be aware that the stock headlight is shit basically for visibility. Looks cool, looks really awesome, but you're not going to be able to see anything. Now you can get an LED bulb, which I've put in, and it is a bit better, but it's still not what I would call good. So I'd be very interested if anybody's got one of these bikes, if they've had the same issue with the headlight, and if they find a solution to solve it. Because I haven't, and I've literally scoured the ends of the earth on the internet to try and find a solution for this. The only other solution, well, there's two that I can think of, would be the LED bulb that I've got in there. It's just a standard LED motorcycle bulb, but I do I have seen those LED bulbs that have got they've got like that big cooling mechanism on the back, but I'm very reluctant to try and put that kind of bulb in, because apparently they're really bright. And the reason I'm reluctant to do it is because of the space in the bucket, because there's not a lot of space in there, and because the wires are so thick, there's not enough play in the wiring to be able to manipulate it in there. And I think that cooling fin on these sort of bulbs would be touching the wires, and I've got a real issue that it would melt something inside there. So I'm really reluctant not to do that. So yeah, the second solution I'm thinking of is to absolutely just completely change the headlight bucket, and basically just get a Triumph Bonneville 7-inch bucket, which make everything bigger. However, to buy one of those, I've been on the Triumph parts, it's like £200 to £300 for the whole headlight assembly, and I'm kind of don't want to spend that kind of money on a new bucket. And also I'm worried that because of the wiring in there, it wouldn't fit, because I've seen that the aperture on the back where all the wiring goes in, they're quite small, and the aperture on the back here for this bucket is quite large, and it's just a case of whether I'll be able to get all those wires in the back there. I did look at an aftermarket bucket and I actually bought one, but all of them are really kind of small. They kind of stop here, and the aperture at the back is tiny, so I'm not sure if I'll be able to get the wiring in there. So the biggest gripe for me on the bike is the light. I would like to change the light. There are companies that sort of do things like this, like Brogue Motorcycles, Analog Motorcycles, those kind of companies, but it costs a lot of money. Whereas you can buy a headlight, and pay sort of anywhere between 30 and 50 quid, which is what I wanted to spend. So I tend not to ride this bike much at night, for that reason now, because the it's okay. Don't get me wrong, it's okay, but it's not. I've had bikes before with much brighter lights, so that is my biggest bugbear with the bike. However, the way it looks stock now with the yellow tint is I do really like the look of it, but visibility at night can be a little bit of an issue. So it's just the stand really, and the headlight that niggle me. Okay, but I can live with that. It's not too much of an issue, but I would prefer to change it if I could. So if you've got any solutions, guys, anybody has done a headlight upgrade to their older Bonneville, please let me know what you did, because I'd be very interested. Other than that, I haven't really got any other kind of issues with the bike really. Do I wish it had tubeless tyres? Yes, I do, but I love the look of the wheels on this. A lot of the other Triumphs with their spoke wheels, they have the spokes are like a brushed kind of steel, whereas these are kind of chrome.